So joining us this morning is Ms. Marsha Walker to discuss her decision to contest Diego Martin West, her vision for the constituency, and what she believes the NTA offers as an alternative to traditional party politics. Good morning, Ms. Walker.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for joining us. So, Ms. Walker, seeing as you previously ran in the local government elections under the United National Congress and even served as a temporary opposition senator, what led
I also ran in the general election, the last general election.
Right. So, what would have led you to leave the UNC and join the NTA?
Well, I mean, it's been in the media, right?
Yes.
I have had challenges with and when I say the present leadership, I mean, it's not just limited to Kamala Prasad-Bissassa, although she admits that the buck stops with her as the political leader. So for the last, it could be 2 years now, actually, after the local government election, I would have resigned as the coordinator for Diego Martin West. We did have issues where there were persons in the party who had, restraining orders against them, and I felt as though we had not taken a strong position on it. So that was closest to, I want to say, home, because as the Diego Martin West coordinator. So I had resigned as the coordinator. And that was, I mean, I think that's ventilated in the media quite a bit. I have spoken out, I mean, several times. I called on Mrs. Prasad-Bissassa to save her legacy, because I do think that whether it be age, whether it be other issues, I think she is being compromised at the moment. And, the Constitution of the United National Congress has not been respected.
Right.
That is something that, again, I spoke out a lot internally. And, now, well, not now, as I said, the issues with UNC has been well ventilated in the media over the last 2 years, the issue between myself and the UNC. I mean, I think very similar to senior counsel, Mr. Larry Lalla, we spoke out quite a bit, and we tried internal before finally offering resignation.
Yeah. That move, your move to the NTA, I mean, that aligns with a trend of political shifts and realignments, because we see that happening quite often currently, people, politicians switching and shifting and going to different parties. So it's not new. But do you think that this kind of signals a change in the political landscape for Trinidad and Tobago?
Honestly, it's not new. And it's not new internationally. It's not new in the Westminster system. In fact, many of the persons that you look to, throughout history, they have changed political alliances, because for them and for me, and I can speak for those historically, because it's sort of like 2020 vision, what they were about. But for me in particular, the political party cannot become bigger than the country. We cannot have more allegiance to the political party than to our country. I want to say red, white, and black. Somebody's going to say red is PNM. No, red is Trinidad and Tobago.
Yes.
And so red, white, and black must always be priority. It cannot be party over country. It must be country over party, and that is what that's what governs. So, you use the word bold leadership, fearless, and I think that's what it comes down to. People talk about constitutional reform all the time. We talk about proportional representation. For me, there's this old prayer, give me the wisdom to know the difference, to accept the things I cannot change and whatnot. Yeah. The Constitution is not something that I personally can change. Can we lobby for it? Can we wish? I think people have been wishing for constitutional change since the day after independence. What we can do, though, is one, elect 41 good candidates. Forget, the party, look at the different people. So, for example, Why the NTA? Well, Gary Griffith has several track records. One track record for me that is very important is his ability and his willingness and his boldness to speak up. So he is prepared to be fired for speaking up. And that's what we need. I say to people, we must be prepared to serve well, serve hard, and then go home. This way of holding on no matter what. So you're silent because you want a seat. You're silent because you don't want to get kicked out. You're silent because your ambitions have taken over, or even at the risk of you're saying, well, you don't want to put the party into disrepute. So you're sitting down like it's a cult, and the only thing needed for evil to prevail is for good people to do nothing, to say nothing, and to just allow it. And I think that is what the NTA brings. We are people who are not afraid to switch sides. I remember when Nicole Dyer Griffith, she was in the leadership race for COP. And I think if she had been the political leader of COP, we would not have needed NTA. COP might have been the new second party. COP might have been, the opposition today, So I think that's what you need. I think you need persons who are not so attached to their political party that the party becomes bigger than the country, and saving the parties or saving face for the party becomes bigger than doing what's right and doing the ethical thing.
Yeah. But hasn't that always worked in terms of certain parties sitting down and just kind of, not putting the party into disrepute? Your approach, the NTA's approach, is to, as I say, be loud, be bold. Isn't that something that people are going to look at as, you should probably tone it down a bit? We're not accustomed to that. How do you see yourself having some sort of victory with this particular stance that you're taking?
I'm on the ground, and what I can tell you is there is no UNC victory, and people are certainly absolutely fed up of PNM. What you can see is trends. They're clear trends. In 2010, we had something like 69%, closer to 68 point whatever percent voter turnout. That dropped in 2015 to 60 something percent. Then in 2020, it was 50 something percent. 58% or whatnot. Local government elections, even though local government elections sees a lower turnout than general elections, comparing local to local, it was the lowest voter turnout in the history of Trinidad and Tobago. So what we know is that the citizens are fed up. They do not want the brand of politics. It's a different generation. That's, whether we like it or not, we are a different generation. We are not the generation where we're going to vote based on tribalism, based on some misplaced loyalty for somebody that we do not know, for a story that, quite frankly, is not true. And that's a story. That's a whole other conversation where a lot of our local history has been rewritten. We are a generation where information is at hand. Yes. So you can't just tell us something at the dinner table and we buy into it because we have nothing else. TTT is not the only form of information. We can research, we can fact check. I can't go back and know about Albert Gomes without ever having met him. Whether or not he's in my social studies book, I can know about him and I can say, wait, this guy may be more responsible for our independence. We are a new generation of thinkers. Yeah. We are critical thinkers. We think for ourselves. We come up with our own opinions, and I think that is a good thing. I know that some of the older generation would like to put us down and put the youth down constantly, but it is good. It's good to think for yourself and to work things out for yourself. And I think that is what the country wants. Again, the Constitutional Reform Committee, it keeps coming up. People want proportional representation. So the idea of third parties serve no purpose. Third parties are your best opportunity for proportional representation inside of the lower house. Because PNM and UNC, if they want, they could take, let's say, 15 seats, and then we take, a 10 seats, or Hope takes a 2 seats, and there's no need for us to take our seats and give it to anybody. It can be on a per vote basis, on a per bill basis. It can be on a situation where, again, and that's why you need people who are dripping with integrity, so that it's not a situation where, well, I need to vote this way, because I want to keep my ministerial position, or I don't want to lose my seat, or this or that. Which is also why people ask, why didn't you stay quiet and go for a safe seat? First of all, this safe seat, boy, they could kick you out because they know, you could get replaced in the morning. And I think that all of that is maybe why the People's Partnership didn't work, because you may have wanted a safe seat. So I see people saying, why UNC don't give the third parties a safe seat. The truth is that is not actually good for the third parties. What we need are seats, as I say, that can act as an independent senator, the same way an independent senator can kind of sift through and say, well, I hear what the opposition is saying, I hear what the government is saying, but I think here's a middle ground, or, they're not blinded, or they're not even, if we look at the Westminster system, where, you have to toe the party line, then that, I'm not going to fall as part of that, So there is that space for an independent MP, as you were. And so we do need a few good voices in there that say, well, listen, I think that this bill is a good bill, and I'm not going to vote along the party lines with it, first of all, because I'm not part of your party, but I am in the lower house. So there is a space there. Politics needs to mature, it needs to grow. And the truth is, again, if you look at history, let's go back to slavery. I always ask people, if slavery were in your hands, if the determination of, whether slavery was to be abolished or not, if that fight was in your hands, would we still be slaves today? Or would you have that personality? Would you have that fight to do what it takes to take a lashing and come again? And when the other slaves, because if we just put ourselves, and think of what that would have looked like, the slaves would have gone, dude, every time you protest, we get more work, we get more licks, we get more whatever. Could you just put your head down, stay quiet, life good? It ain't perfect, but it's good. Had that been the mentality, and that is what, that's the one thing that I think this generation of Trinidadians and Tobagonians do not remember. We just finished celebrating Carnival. People died for that freedom.
Yeah.
So we put on our beads and we think, yeah, land of the free. Somebody died for that freedom.
Yeah.
Blood was shed for that freedom. We are at a space where we are fighting for the soul of our nation. And I'm sorry, but what you need is big and bold to step and say, no, we will not let our country turn into Venezuela or turn into Haiti or somewhere where you turn back and, migrants, persons who migrated 20 years, 30 years ago look back and say, what happened to Trinidad?
So, Ms. Walker, what are these specific issues that you would have for the constituency of Diego Martin? How would you treat with it differently? As you know, Keith Christopher Rowley, Prime Minister, has historically held that constituency. How are you any different?
Well, I'm very different in that I grew up there. I did not grow up in Tobago. That's where I'm very different. I would not have been gifted a PNM safe seat. That is where I'm very different. So somebody like PNM, you are given the seat, and it's kind of like you feel as though it's a sure seat into the lower house. I could have gotten a marginal seat. Again, I could have stayed in UNC and gotten a safe seat. I was born and bred in Diego Martin. My husband was born and bred in Diego Martin. I can walk Snake Lane in La Puerta. I don't know if some other people even know where that is. And that is where I am different. I also think that where I am very different, and this is where I do think I am the perfect candidate for Diego Martin West in particular. Diego Martin West is almost like two different countries in a very small space. You can go to Big Yard, and then you can go to Bayshore, and it is two different countries, and they're walking distance from each other. So one person, Goodwood, not Goodwood Park, Goodwood Gardens, right? They struggle in particular with a flooding issue. Big Yard doesn't struggle with a flooding issue there on the hill, right? What they struggle with is no water in the taps up the hill. right? What they struggle with is the fact that even on a good day, no one cleans their garbage because you have, well, first of all, the bins are placed in the wrong spot. Then the garbage, it certainly just isn't sufficient because you have somewhat 300 homes on one street, and then the main garbage is up the hill. So those at the bottom of the hill do not feel safe. If you remember, a few years ago, there was a shootout in Big Yard, very close to where the bin is, and a little girl lost her life. I mean, her blood ran down my family home's drain.
Yes.
Do you want me to walk and put my garbage up there?
Yes.
And and we need representation who genuinely understands that. There is a call similar to local government election where the representative must be part of at least the corporation. We have persons who live in Diego Martin that have filed for Kumuto Manzanilla. We have persons who live in Diego Martin who is the MP for Point Lisas.
Yes.
You need to live and work
Yes.
and traverse and drive the streets of the place that you are representing. Because that way, when you drive past the garbage every morning, you could pick up the phone and say, hey, did you see this? Or, hey, why did CPEP leave the bags of the clippings right next to the drain? Because then rain will fall and common sense tells you the garbage is going to fall into the drain, and Goodwood Gardens has a flooding issue. So we need to keep those waterways as clean as possible, because even with impeccable maintenance, there is a flooding issue. So you can't leave the trimmings there. You can't put it in the garbage bag right next to the drain. And have you seen the rain levels? Have you seen what's going on? It's going to end up in the drain. Do you notice I don't have any notes, anything? I haven't looked down.
Yeah.
These things at the top of my head. You know why? Because I'm there walking the ground. No one has to give me a speech and tell me somebody's name. I can call the names. I can tell you that in 2020 there was a newborn baby at the house, and there was a garbage bin with rats. That was a health and safety hazard.
Yes.
And there's a newborn baby in that home. I can tell you, and I can call their names only because we're on air. I'm not going to call their names, but I can tell you whose wall is every rainy season at a risk of washing away into the river. I can tell you who's trying to sell their home because where's been broken into the most, and they can't get it sold because nobody wants to purchase, prime property in Trinidad and Tobago. I can tell you the ones who have had it sold and they now live in the States and they can't get their foreign exchange. I can tell you whose husband is in the States trying to get their foreign exchange from the house that they sold, and he has a heart condition and they've worked all their lives, but they cannot get their foreign exchange.
Your passion is
I can
very,
tell you all of this
very
because I am on
infectious.
the ground,
Yeah.
genuinely caring for a better Trinidad and Tobago, and that starts with a better Diego Martin West.
Yes.
I agree. Your passion is very infectious. We talked about the voters who are really radical for this change, and we also talked about those who will be stonewalls and will vote, as you said, tribalism. What about those who are disillusioned, the ones who are kind of sitting on the sidelines and they don't know what to do? How would you mobilize
Here's
them?
my first piece of advice for them. Make sure to be registered to vote, and make sure to be registered to vote in your constituency. And I can only speak again for Diego Martin West. When you walk and you go through the list, you canvass that list, what you find is that many people are still registered wherever they got their ID card at 18 years old. They're still registered there. So flooding impacts you in Diego Martin West, but you're voting in St. Anne's. Crime impacts you in Diego Martin West, but you're still voting in San Fernando. You don't have to make a decision to vote today. You have to make a decision, one, to at least be prepared to vote, which means you have to be registered in Diego Martin West. I can help you with that. My office number is 499-WALK. It's easy, 499-WALK. Notice, easy to get me, 499-WALK. We'll help you with your registration. That's one. Two, is you don't have to be involved at the level that I'm involved, but here's how citizens need to be involved. Forget the noise, forget the propaganda, forget all the petty politics, bald head, small pin, and all kind of shippiness, and look at your candidates. I would even tell you, you could forget the political leader, even though it is important. I do know that it's important because that person has to become the prime minister, right? But let us start with what, it's like building the bottom up. Who is the candidate? So you have Diego Martin West. Go and find out about Hans de Veens. Who is he? What was he doing before he got this, gold spoon? Who is Marshall Walker? Who is whoever UNC puts? Who is that person? What were they doing before politics? What was their interest before politics? Is this a natural step because they've realized that politics is where that final ultimate change needs to happen? Because let's be real, we can have all the NGOs in the world. I think Haiti probably has the most NGOs. A country that isn't working, what they need are NGOs. A country whose politicians are dripping with integrity, they don't need NGOs because the government will know their place, they will know when not to overstep, how to work, how to do policies that truly serve the people. So I think that that's what citizens need to do. Forget all the noise and go and meet with your representative. If you cannot get through to your candidate during general elections, then you think you're going to get through to them after they've won? I will also, and I want you to be fair to your candidate. It is impossible for your candidate to meet 30,000 people walking. Most times you don't come out of the house, or you're not home, or whatever. It is far easier for 30,000 people to get in contact with 499 Walk than for us to think, to be fair, that I can hunt you down, find you, and have a conversation with you. 499 Walk, have a conversation, ask hard questions,
So speaking of specific journeys, how has your particular journey prepared you for a role in politics?
I tell the story all the time. I wrote a children's book. So before politics, I was an advocate for conscientious parenting. So I had a parenting television show on, another channel, a column and everything. And I'd written a children's book where I told the true story of some people like Keyshawn Walcott. Because again, a lot of times people see the end results. They don't see all the hard work and stuff before. I wanted to tell that story in a children-friendly manner. And so I went to schools from Guayari to Laventille, reading the stories, and I guess that put me front and center with the condition of our education system, the physical infrastructure, the condition. And I remember going into Laventille Girls Primary School, and the bathroom is facing the playground. So you open it into the playground, and the bathroom has no lights. So the girls cannot close in the door. They can't close in a door that faces into the playground, and the light is blown, the bulb is blown. And it's just like, so you're just hoping that your friend is kind and keeps the door closed, and it's a light bulb. Then you go upstairs and there's like a massive hole in the floor, and you could just, and it's a game. We throw things down to the next class, because we don't need to walk down the step. We could just, like a bucket brigade. And then, so that led into different camps and stuff. And one day an 8-year-old girl came up to me and said, I was raped. Our law suggests that, if you say that to me, I have to take it seriously. I have to make a report. And I said to her, she was afraid of the repercussions of making the report and whatnot, or apparently the report was made, and she was going through a lot. And I said, I will not leave you alone. I will be here with you. I will walk you through this process. And I sat on many committees. I advocated, domestic abuse. I've left my house at midnight with persons calling, and we jump in the car and we go and rescue a mother who is, being abused. Again, you sit on committees. I've been in I remember years ago, Faris Al-Rawi at the time would have been the Attorney General, and giving suggestions for how we could change and improve the Domestic Violence Act. And more and more I realized that this is where the real change happens. I could fight and walk and fight and walk, and I'm just hitting a brick wall, because judges are governed by the law, and if the law has a loophole, then or if the law doesn't accommodate for it, or all these different things. And the final buck of change, that final space is politics, is the policy makers. Those persons who go inside of Parliament must be willing to debate, and debate with an open mind, and debate with maturity, and debate with an end result of this is the best legislation to take our country forward. It's not, well, I'm opposing for opposing's sake, or I'm bringing something that I think that's going to just win a vote. It must be from a space of persons who are on the ground, who are not in an ivy tower somewhere. Because sometimes we kind of think, who made this policy? And they're made by people in a suit and tie, and no problem, I'm going to wear a suit this evening as well for our rally. But they're made by persons who don't seem to be on the ground, who do not seem to remember what they went through. Because I would say Keith Rowley didn't come. He wasn't born rich. He was not born in Goodwood Park. And you kind of think, have you forgotten what life is like?
Yeah, I completely understand. I think we actually have to come to an end. Right now we have run out of time. We do appreciate you coming on to share with us, not only your story, but everything that you shared with us. Your passion is very infectious, and I do appreciate it. So,
well, that's the point, right? Let's infect some people to come out and vote.
We definitely did have a lot more questions for you, but we do have to come to an end. But I mean, for future reference, we would love to invite you back onto the program. Absolutely. And continue this conversation.
And you can WhatsApp the questions, somehow. Figure it out.
Sure. But thank you again for joining us this morning. We do hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and all the best.
7 p.m. We're at NTA headquarters. The movement for change has begun. Assembly. 7 p.m.
7 p.m. today.
Yes.
Great.
And if you need a
reminder, you guys are going to be there. It's not a party thing, come in red, white, and black,
Where is this located?
At the corner of Mount Lambert Circular and Eastern Main Road. So, I mean, if you just kind of drive just after Arangwa's there's a basketball court. Just around Carib Brewery, just head towards there, and then you'll see, and it's in the car park, so you'll see Maxis, you'll see all the commotion, and you'll know, oh, this is the rally march I was talking about.
Nice. All right. Thank you so much for that.